divine journey through the sacred literature Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. Let us begin this session by invoking Swami's presence with 3 Oms followed by Gayatri Mantra. Om. Vaswaha तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
Om Sai Ram. At Madras was speaking to the members of the Young Men's Indian Association. He pleaded with the elders present to become, for the young men of today, better examples of integrity and efficiency and selfless service. Big personages claiming to be great declaim about the Vedas, the Shastras, and the Atma, freely quoting the similes and metaphors found in sacred scriptures, but by the conduct, the conceit, and the conflicts, they only diminish the luster of those treasures. He said there is no coordination between the speaker, the subject, and subsequent conduct. Therefore, instead of Amrita, the words become Anrita. He declared at the Gokale Hall, he said that man must seek answers to the 4 fundamental questions. Who am I? Where have I come from? Whither am I going? How long will I stay? He said that the 4 Vedas are devoted to the discovery of the answers to these very queries. Then he began to show how the answers can be realized through the jnana and bhakti or karma. But he said that the Lord's grace, if won through namasmarana, will relieve them to the aspirants in a thrice. Analyzing the causes for the present crisis in the moral life of the community, he pointed out that cynicism and the urge to satirize are 2 big diseases of the age, and this lead to irreverence and the spread of disbelief. A life lived in the constant presence of God is the most secure and happy, for the shafts of social criticism will not penetrate it and cause it pain. Religion and belief in God are being challenged now from all quarters. It is therefore the duty of all astikas to meet this challenge by demonstrating to the critics how their lives have been sweeter by religion, how the realization of constant presence of the Lord has made them more efficient, more earnest, and more courageous for the task of living. At the All India Sai Samaj, he declared, you take up the dictionary to find out the meaning of a certain word, but as you turn over the pages in order to spot it, other words attract your attention and you're drawn towards them and their meanings. So too, you might come to me with someone immediate purpose, but while doing so, you come to know that you can use me to solve deeper dilemmas, assuage more poignant pains, and secure greater spiritual peace. He takes every opportunity to bring home to his listeners that the effort, the discrimination, the sacrifice, the sadhana alone can give them what they most need, namely Shanti. At the Shanti Kutiram Royapuram, he spoke once on Sri Krishna and another time on the Bhagavad Gita. He gave a number of incidents from the life of Sri Krishna that are not found in the books and made his discourse most instructive and illuminating. He made a pun on the word Gita, which when read from other end becomes the Telugu word Dagi, meaning drink, and said that unless the nectar of the Gita is drunk and assimilated, one cannot get any result. Mere punditry or pompous scholarship or mugging of the Gita with all its thousands and odd commentaries is all a waste of precious time. There are two paths, he once told an audience at Puttaparthi, which everyone must read: the Dharma Raga, relating to the physical world, the social world, and the community to which one belongs, and the Brahma Marga, relating to oneself alone, the soul and the disciplines connected with fulfillment. Man must grasp God with the right hand and the world with the left. Gradually, the left will lose its hold. Do not worry about this. It has to be so. That is why it is called left. But the right hand must not be allowed to loosen its grip, for it is right that it should grip tight. That is why it is called right. Statements like this stick in the memory, and listeners will long ponder over them, deriving sustenance and joy therefrom. Adventagiri, inaugurating the Adhyamic lectures, he declared that the bane of Indian life has been the absence of cordiality and brotherliness. At Nellore, keeping a monster meeting of 50,000 listening enthralled for over an hour, he spoke of discrimination, buddhi balam, and the need for faith based on inquiry and reason. At Kadur, he spoke of the magic influence of prema between all classes and grades of people. Prema will bring about shanti. It is based on truth. It is the dharma of all. You won't be wrong if you characterize me as prema swarupa, he declared. At Pedapuram, he exhorted everyone to have muscles of iron and nerves of steel, to become heroes with no trace of weakness or cowardice or sense of inferiority. Do not call yourself the children of sin. There is no sin worse than that. Your Amrita Putras, every one of you have the Lord presiding in your heart. He is the Antaryamin of everything in creation. How then can you be a child of sin? He asked. At Okiripalli in the Krishna district, where he addressed a gathering of Pandits and Sanskrit scholars, he stated that Kali is the age of Tantra, and paying tribute to Sir John Woodruff for unraveling the science of Tantra in his books, Baba explained the role of Tantra in the worship of Shakti. He explained the role of Mahashakti, Yoga Shakti, and Maya Shakti in the careers of avatars. Often during his discourses, Baba illustrates his Upadesh by stories of Narada, Ambarisha, Sabari, Pralada, Bhishma, Bharata, Guha, Anjaneya, Chaitanya, Meera, Puranda, Radas, Kabir, Patinathar, Manikar, Vasagar, Sudas, Tulsidas, Brahm, Bhadrachala, Ramadas, Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, and others. Sometimes he speaks in a reminiscent mood of the days spent in past ages in Ayodhya and Vrindavan. He relates events and incidents not found in the Ramayana or Mahabharata or Bhagavata, but which all the hallmarks and authenticity is conversant with the details of the lives of the saints of India and Western and Middle East countries, for he gives illustrative incidents from the life of Christian, Muslims, and Parsi saints also. Hassan and Hussein, Moses, Jerome, and Paul are for him as usual as Tyagaraja or Parhahi Baba in exemplifying or amplifying a point he wishes to emphasize. For Baba has been, and will be, he is the eternal witness. Indeed, he reveals this aspect of his reality very often in his discourses, in more or less direct declaration, like flashes of lightning they bring to our consciousness suddenly, and we will feel the splendor of his personality. Do not try to measure me, you will fail. Try rather to discover your own measure, then you will succeed better in discovering my own measure. I engage in no tapas, I do no dhyana at all. I do not study. I'm no yogi or siddha or sadhaka. I've come to guide and bless all sadhakas. I'm neither man nor woman old or young, I'm all these. Do not praise me. I like you to approach me without fear as of right. You do not extol your father. You ask for something from him as of right, is it not? I did not come uninvited to this world. Sadhu, saints, sages, good men of all grades and climes called out and entreated, so I have come. You may be seeing me today for the first time, but you're all acquaintances for me. I know you through and through. I have neither guna nor karma. How then can illusion affect me? If I had come down with Shankha, Chakra, Gada, and Padma, you would have run away or put me into exhibition. If I were just like any one of you, you would have not cared at all. This is why I've taken up this human form, and I show you now and then these Mahimas. My task is a spiritual regeneration of humanity through truth and love. I've come to show you both Dharma Marga and Brahma Marga. If you approach one step nearer to me, I shall advance 3 steps towards you. I'm happiest when a person carrying a heavy load of misery comes to me, for he is most in need of what I have. All are mine through the atmic relationship. So those who worship me are not nearer to me than others who do not. These are some of the illuminating flashes that Baba has vouchsafed in his discourses. It is my will that has brought every single one of you to this place to listen to me. He said once, that is the measure of his grace and might. These announcements heighten the innate value and appeal of the message that Baba brings to the distracted souls gathered before him. He embraces everyone in his overwhelming prema, and when he announces to the gathering, I do not discard anyone, I cannot. It is not my nature to do so. Have no fear. I'm yours, you're mine. An outer worldly intimacy is immediately established between him and us. Therefore, his words sink deep into the consciousness and striking root, slowly grow into good conduct and daivic character. He addresses the gathering as Atma Swarupala Palara, or embodied Atmas. His primary purpose is to awaken man from the sleep of ignorance and point out to him his real nature, the imperishable, immortal, divine self. You are the invisible Atman, unaffected by the ups and downs of life. The shadow which you cast while trudging along the road falls on dirt and dust, bush and briar, stone and sand. But you are not worried at all, for you walk unscathed. So, too, as the Atma substance, you have no reason to be worried over the fate of its shadow, the body. Baba drives this point home by many an example and infuses unshakable courage. My mission is to grant you courage and joy, to drive away weakness and fear. He has said on many occasions, do not condemn yourself as sinners. Sin is a misnomer for what are really errors. I shall pardon all your errors, provided you repent sincerely and resolve not to follow evil again. Pray to the Lord to give you the strength to overcome the habits which have enticed you when you were ignorant. Thus, it kindles the flame of hope and health in every heart. By his sweetness, his overpowering mercy, and his words of wisdom, he has corrected the steps of hundreds and tens them on towards the path of Loka Sangaraha and Atmodhara. I remember a very touching incident that happened the morning after a discourse. He gave a nalo. A middle-aged person rushed into his room and fell at his feet, rolling on the ground and sobbing like a child. Baba knew the reason why there is no need in his case for question and answer. He turned to us and said, yesterday's story of Ramu, and asked us to leave the room. Baba had related the previous evening the story of a little boy Ramu who begged for food from door to door. His mother was very ill. He called out in front of a house, enraging the master, who rushed towards him and hit him on the head, causing him to fall with the pot which contained his earnings. The blow killed him, and he died with the words, Mother, I will give you food now, on his lips. That story and the advice that Baba gave, namely that everyone must be grateful first to the father and the mother. The parents to whom he owes his very existence had struck remorse in the heart of that listener, for he had, for some very silly reason, quarreled with his mother and kept her apart. Now he had come to crave Baba's pardon and rehabilitate himself under his auspices and with his blessing. Baba knew that without being told. Baba knew all that without being told. He patted him lovingly on the back. The sobs continued. Baba said, Paschathamam is itself the prayaschitam. Come, come. Stop weeping. I shall be at your village. Bring your mother there, and you shall get darshan together. Go and fetch her there before I arrive. Mention can be made of many such dramatic incidents consequent on the grace-filled discourses of Baba, of loans being repaid, of aged fathers being helped, of neglected wives being welcomed again, of deep-rooted habits of gambling or drink being given up for food, for good. Baba's campaign of Upadesh had only just begun, and anyone who had heard his message can clearly visualize the significance of the declaration he made on the opening page of the Sanatana Sarati, the monthly magazine which he inaugurated on Shivratri Day 1958, the 32nd year of his earthly career. This day, Sanatana Sarati, the eternal charioteer, sought out on the campaign against falsehood, injustice, wickedness, and evil. The minions of the spirit of egoism, the Vedas, the Upanishad, and the Sastrat are the regiments of the army. The victory to be won is the welfare of the entire world. When the triumph drums are beaten in the joy of success, humanity would have achieved happiness and peace, sukha and shanti, sima and ananda. Already the outlines of the plan of campaign are clear on the horizon. The clarion call for the great task is Baba's fourfold program of Satya, Dharma, Shanti, and Prema. His plan is for all humanity, for he says it is not mentioned anywhere that the grace of God is available only for certain classes or races or grades of people. From the smallest to the biggest, from the Anu to the Ghana, all are entitled to it. The Lord is everywhere, in everything. He can be realized by sadhana, the practice of satya and dharma and prema. Satya is the highest dharma, and prema is the only road to shanti. Baba has also taken up the task of educating sadhakas and aspirants and correcting the teachers and guides who are largely led astray by the greed for name and fame, for success in the competition, for public support, and for the evanescent glory of international fame or newspaper renown. Test everyone on the touchstone of sincerity. See how far each has renounced, not merely in words, but in actual deed. Then accept the advice and bring it into your daily conduct and behavior. It is the practice that matters, not the punditry. Insist the era of Satya Sai, which has dawned, is indeed bound to the golden age of humanity. Sai Sadguru. Baba has equal love towards all. Similarly, he does not make any distinction between a village and a city. In fact, responds perhaps even more readily when bhaktas from remote villages require him. He is quite at home in a Raj Bhavan or in a Parnasala. Devotees have succeeded in persuading Baba to vouchsafe to them the pleasure of welcoming and worshipping him in their own towns and homes. On such occasion, it is but natural that they should desire more and more people to get the benefit of his darshan and his discourse. Baba had often agreed to this request, and so at Chittoor, Trivandrum, Bombay, and other places, many had the chance of personally paying homage to him. He had also addressed public meetings at many places, thus giving thousands the unique and unforgettable pleasure of listening to his captivating voice and strength-giving upadesh. Baba has equal love towards all. Similarly, He does not make any distinction between a village and a city. In fact, he responds perhaps even more readily when bhaktas from remote villages require him. He is quite at home in a Raj Bhavan or in a Panashala. He takes with him when he goes out to the homes of his bhaktas barely a few persons, for he does not like to increase the burden on their situation as well as on their purses. He is quite well able to look after himself and can dispense with the impediment of an entourage. As a matter of fact, his kindness and consideration towards the person who accompany him when he travels makes this latter sorry feel themselves more a burden on his attention than a help to make his journey and stay comfortable. Baba has so far traveled quite a number of times through Tamil Nadu, visiting Coimbatore, Trichinopoli, Tanjore, Salem, and the rest of the towns like Tineveli, etc. He has been to Hyderabad many times and traveled through the towns and villages of Telangana. He has been to Ellora and Ajanta in order to show them to his devotees, for he has no need to go to places in order to see them. He can describe any place anywhere to the minutest detail without actually being there physically. As related already, he has journeyed to Delhi, Rishikesh, Kashmir, Mathura, Brindavan. Has paid also a flying visit to Bombay city. He's traveled many times along the East Coast Road from Madras to the Krishna and Godavari deltas, halting at Nilo, Ongale, Guntur, Newswade, Chibrol, Rajamundry, Pedapuram, Samalkot, and Masilipatnam, and meeting devotees and others at every place. He has even gone into more distant Musafir places like Bhadrachalam and Okiripalli. In Karnataka, Baba has been to Bellary, Hospet, Merkara, Mysore, and Mandya, and he has spent many weeks off and on at Madras, Kodaikanal, Uttaramund, and Nandanavanam in Whitefield near Bangalore. Baba has a keen key for beauty spots. When he rides along in his car and pulls up in quiet, shady corners where nature is loveliest, or by the side of running brooks gurgling among the rocks or heights from where the panorama of hill and dale spreads out before the tired eye. He prefers to stroll on the seashore or between the trees of the forest or along the borders of plantation. He uses every opportunity to clarify the doubts in the minds of the Bhaktas, for faith and steadfastness can grow only in the soul of conviction. Thus, Baba's journey become moving schools for those who have the chance to be of the party. When a devotee told Baba, I heard that your Kerala tour was most pleasant and wonderful. I'm sad that I was not destined to join. Baba replied, have the confidence and hope that when next such an opportunity arises, you may be able to join. Meanwhile, listen to the account given by those who join and be happy. A word about that adjective wonderful the devotee was referring to a very dramatic, indeed astounding miracle that happened at Kanyakumari. In the evening, when the sky had turned into carnival of pink and purple, and the clouds had decorated themselves with golden fringes, Baba proceeded to the seashore and with his bhaktas around him played with the waves of the seas that mingled there. Each succeeding wave seemed to be more eager than the previous one to touch his lotus feet and to offer him its own special homage. Suddenly, as if aware of the yearning of the seas, Baba stood facing the waters and said to those beside him, see, the ocean is welcoming me with a garland. At the very moment, one could discern a stately wave a few yards away, advancing majestically towards the shore, and soon it swept Baba's feet and receded. Imagine the wonder and amazement of everyone when they found round Baba's feet a bewitching pearl garland, swaying and swinging with every surge of the waters around them. 108 translucent pearl, each a priceless gem, strung on a thread of gold. Oh, how charming Baba looked, the avatar of the Lord receiving the homage of Varuna again. Reverting now to the discussion that from the main items of the day's program for Baba when at Prashanti Nilayam or anywhere, it would be best to go through a list of questions asked on the great day on which the sea paid its homage to Baba. Is all this creation just Maya? No, taking it as a creation is the Maya. Ignorance of its real nature is Maya. Are epics like the Ramayana and Mahabharata true? True? They only give some part of the truth. For example, when you speak about me to others, you're not able to describe me fully, is it not? Why would God come down as man to restore Dharma? Is not mere Sankalpa enough? Of course, it can be done by mere will, but how are you to get all this bliss if God does not come in human form? When there is a small local disturbance, constable is enough to put it down. When the trouble is threatening to develop into sizable proportion, a sub-inspector is sent. When it grows into a riot, the superintendent of police himself had to go in. But when, as now all mankind is threatened with moral ruin, the inspector general comes down, the Lord with his army of saintly men and sadhakas. Where does an avatar take place? At the place where spiritual sadhana can best be undertaken. How can we know that you are Shirdi Sai Baba? It is difficult for you when I went the other day as an old man to save Venkataraman's child on the road near Bejpalli. He did not recognize me. He thanked me profusely and held out a rupee coin towards me. He believed that I'm a villager named Jodi Alipali Somappa when I gave that name. Rama and Krishna are avatar of the same Lord, but the characteristics are different. So too, how can you realize the identity between the Sariram and the Shirdi Sariram? Those who worship Shirdi Sai have not understood whom, and you too have not understood me. It is only those who have understood both that can pronounce judgment, is it not? This was the turn of the conversation on the beach after the pearl garland offering. The next day, too, when the party reached Kottalam on the way to Surandai and sat outside the Travancore house for bhajan in the evening, Baba invited those around him to ask him questions. These are the answers. I'm behind every sadhaka. They turn back to me to see me. But how can they? I'm still at their back. Sometimes in a flash, I give them a darshan out of my own sankalpa. God is Anandi, beginless. But now people have started quarreling because they say God is Nadi. Nadi, mind in Telugu. In Jivaloka, there is both good and bad. In Pranaloka, there is only the good. In Atma Loka, both are equal. In Paramatma Loka, there is neither good nor bad. There is no nastiska, no dushta, and all will realize God sooner or later. I shall pardon 100-fold of yours. First, examine whether you have followed my advice, and then judge whether my words have come true. There are tests held every week and every month and their quarterly and half-yearly examination in schools. But it is only after the final examination are held and the papers are valued that the results are announced and you are declared passed or failed. Do well in each test and earn the grace of the examiner. You can either destroy or develop karma. The sadhana you do can either burn it or braid it. Indians have to learn much from the Westerners. People of this country instill fear even in the minds of young children. You will fall, you will hurt yourself, they are told. Children are not trained to climb trees or swim or to do 100 other useful actions. They are warned about ghosts, fears, and they grow up in mortal dread. Children must learn self-reliance, courage, and enthusiasm.
Thank you, Sister Ratna, for the beautiful rendition. Now, Sister Kirtiha, you may continue from here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. There are 3 stages of sadhana. When the sadhaka is sahajamanava, when he becomes sadhana manava, and when he attains the stage of sarveshwara manava. First, there are 3 entities, Loka, Jiva, and Ishvara. Then they just reduce themselves into 2, Jiva and Ishvara. Finally, only Ishvara remains as all 3. All this creation has been made possible with only these 2, Jadam and Chaitanya, Prakriti and Purusha. Vidwan Chaudhya, the violinist, plays 400 ragas, not with the violin of 400 strings, but with a violin having 4 strings, is it not? Mud and water make a pot. Shiva and Shakti make this Jagat. Here all are Brahmas. One Brahma asks, 10 Brahmas listen, one Brahma answers, and all Brahmas are satisfied. When the rays of the sun are caught and concentrated on a point by a piece of glass, it produces fire. When the rays of the Lord's grace are thus concentrated, it will light up buddhi, burn and destroy the mind. The Lord has ordained sorrow, for without sorrow, man will not cling to God. It is something like the dietary and other restrictions which the doctor prescribes in order to supplement the effect of his drug. Shraddha will come only if you develop hunger for God. A man who does not feel hunger will not relish a feast. For dhyanam and japam, there are certain steps and stages which have to be followed. Random pursuit of spiritual ideals is no good. If you ask me which is more useful, japam or dhyanam, I will say that which induces more shraddha in you. In japam, the lips and the tongue should not move. Japam has to be mental. Radha is Dara, the earth, Prakriti, the counterpart of Purusha. Radha is Bhakti, the Adar. It must flow like a Dara or unbroken stream. If you adhere to the path of Satya, failure will not appear a failure, misery will not appear miserable. These are some of the precious utterances of Baba which make a yatra with him a veritable jnana yatra for everyone. Wherever Baba stays, he vouchsafes personal interviews as at Prashanti Nilayam and confers the boon of consolation and courage and faith to all who seek them. He also encourages the bhaktas to arrange for bhajan and the singing in chorus of the name of the Lord. Very often he trains them in the singing of songs. Thus Baba moves from place to place, making all hearts bloom in joy, showering his blessings on all who are afflicted and earnest, proving by miracles every moment that he has assumed the human form for you and me. Chapter 13. I am here. He had gone out of the body, bringing the consoling message, I am here, to some bhakta in extreme distress. This is my duty. Wherever I am, whatever I may be doing, when the bhaktas call, I have to go and give them succor. On the 8th day of September 1958, in the evening, Baba was addressing a vast gathering of people of Nuzvid and the surrounding villages in the spacious compound of the Elamaru Palace. He began by saying that men have missed the road and are traversing the devious bylanes that take them away from the goal. But man alone has the capacity to recognize the right road and retrace his steps and constantly correct himself. He must use this capacity of introspection and realize that it is only in the contemplation of the Bhagavat tattva, that there is shanti and santosha. He mentioned that sorrow and unrest can all be traced to want of mental courage. And the sentence was cut short because he fell back into a corner of the chair in which he was sitting. He became stiff and motionless. He had gone out of the body, bringing the consoling message, I am here, to some bhakta in extreme distress. The time was 7:25. There was an eerie stillness in the air. The audience forgot even to breathe. The ticking of the timepiece on the table could be heard in the silence that overcame everyone. At 7:30, he came back and, resuming the address, said, This is my duty. Wherever I am, whatever I may be doing, when the bhaktas call, I have to go and give them succor. And then he continued for over an hour on the Guru Shishya relationship, the body as the temple of the Lord, and the disciples necessary to sublimate the passions of man. On the 24th November 1958, there was Uyalotsavam at Puttaparthi as part of the birthday celebrations of Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba. The swing at the eastern end of the hall was beautifully decorated with flowers, and Baba seated himself on it. At the earnest entreaty of his devotees, prayer songs were sung. There was also music, and some devotees addressed the assembly on religious subjects. Suddenly, Baba heard a call, fell back on the pillows, and became unconscious of the happenings at Puttaparthi. He had become aware of someone at Hyderabad city, as he said later, a devotee's father, a dropsy patient, suddenly afflicted with a heart attack, who was being lifted onto an ambulance. He gave him his darshan and vibhuti and came back to the swing in the hall. It was a matter of bare 2.5 minutes, but as he said at Nuzvid, he had to go, his duty, as he called it, beckoned to him. Oh, how can one describe the infinite mercy of the Lord or his infinite powers? This mercy has, during these years, been evinced in many forms, but the most dramatic is this extracorporeal journey which he undertakes. Even as early as 1940, that is, when he was barely 14 years old, he used to arouse the consternation of everyone by going out without notice. On the very first occasion, it was mistaken to be the sting of a scorpion and consequent unconsciousness. It is seldom that he discloses the place to which he had gone and mentions the person who received his grace. But the cases where he has mentioned these details are themselves so many that one can say confidently that these journeys have taken him to the Assam frontier, the Kashmir front, the Swiss Valley, the Nalamale forest, the seashore of Bombay, besides a large number of other places in India and outside. Sometimes the body of Baba can be seen making gestures and movements like dragging, pulling, lifting, bandaging, or extracting, and later he would explain them as gestures of his actual saving someone from being drowned or burnt or run over or crushed or jammed. He said once that he had been to Bolaram when he was talking to a group of devotees at Muthukur on the terrace of a house because a jeep had overturned and a devotee was caught underneath. Baba ran up to him with the message, Why fear when I am here? Extricated him from under the vehicle, and as he said, after he came back, remained by his side until a passenger bus came along and took the injured person to the hospital. During the Razakar troubles and dacoities in Hyderabad, when the life of a bhakta was in imminent peril, Baba went to his rescue. He actually beat some persons around him on the terrace of the Nilayam, which he explained later was the treatment he administered to the dacoits with hundredfold effect at Hyderabad, who the Hyderabad Bhakta said ran helter-skelter in sudden panic. A villager had quarreled with his brother about a sharing of produce, and he came over to Puttaparthi, hoping to remain there itself on the charity of the pilgrims. Baba chastised him for being a burden on others, when, with a little more patience and love, he could be happy with his brother in his own village. He assured him that his grace will be on him wherever he was and sent him away to his own place. He took this so sadly to heart as if Baba had driven him out, and so he laid himself across the rails on a dark night and hoped that the wheels of an advancing train would end his misery. But Baba's grace is all-pervading. He hurried to him on the railway line and pushed him aside just in time. Persons around him at Puttaparthi could see him pushing something heavy, for his gestures were of that type, and Baba came to with an exclamation against the villager who had so foolishly interpreted his advice. The villager, Bhimaiya by name, felt, as he later explained to me, that Baba held his hand and dragged him down the slope of the bund on which he lay. Tearful with repentance and sorrow, he returned immediately to Puttaparthi before joining his brother and his village. Bhimaiya must have felt that the description of Dattatreya in the famous stotra, Dattatreya Tat Shanat Sarvagami Tyagi Bogi Divya Yogi Dayalu, was absolutely correct so far as this Satya Sai avatar of Dattatreya was concerned. Even now, when the devotees ask Bhimaiya why he put Baba to the bother of a transcorporeal journey by his foolhardiness, he hangs his head down in shame and pleads that we should not pursue a matter that is painful to him. While on this point of the Dattatreya aspect of Baba, I am tempted to quote here the experience of a friend, professor of philosophy. He had contacts with a Dattatreya Upashaka, disciple of Gondavali Brahma Chaitanya Maharaj, and he was studying various texts under the old man. Once the Upashaka told him about Sri Satya Sai Baba as the incarnation of Dattatreya and asked him to go to Puttaparthi and receive his blessings. I cannot go because I am too old to undertake the journey, but you should go and have his darshan, he insisted. He came to Puttaparthi, and when he was called in by Baba for an interview. The very first words with which Baba began the conversation were, "Come on, have your namaskaram. This is the Dattatreya Pitam for you." Dattatreya is extolled in the Puranas as he who goes to every place in the same instant in answer to calls, prayers, supplications from all quarters for intercession and solace and strength and relief. Baba leaves the body and goes to the devotee's side during the last moments of his earthly career and gives him darshan. Baba one evening left to give darshan to a person whose name he announced after he came back into the body. When I told him, so this event happened at Mudanur, he contradicted me and said, no, the death took place on account of heart failure. The person was being taken to some other place. The death was on the road. And later, the letter from the bereaved husband revealed that for want of an oxygen apparatus at the local hospital, the patient had to be taken in a taxi to a town about 20 miles away, and she passed away in the taxi with the words Sai Ram on her lips. At Horsley Hills, while moving in the dining hall one night, he seemed on the verge of a journey, but murmured to himself, "There is still a little time," and walked forward to his table. And midway during dinner, he left to vouchsafe darshan to the dying man. Some months ago, while he was on one of these journeys of mercy, he repeated, "Water, water," a number of times, and so those around him at Puttaparthi brought a glass of water and held it to his lips. But he did not notice at all. When he came back and looked around, he saw the glass full of water and inquired who had brought it and kept it there, and why. And when told that he himself had asked for it, he smiled and said, "If I ask for water to be given to a dying man somewhere, water is brought here also." Strange are the ways of God. That is why perhaps Baba says very often, "Do not waste your time and energy trying to find explanations for my deeds. Understand yourselves and your own nature first. That will give the clue even to me." Baba need not transcend the physical frame in order to appear elsewhere or apply relief. Sometimes he just sits tight and or looks straight in a type of a stare, comes to in a few seconds. Meanwhile, the journey and the communication of grace are over. One day, while in the midst of a story to illustrate a point, a story of one of the ministers of Manu Chakravarti, Baba flicked away for about 10 seconds and coming back resumed the story. Only a few of more attentive among the listeners noticed anything out of the ordinary. Just then, someone entered his room and Baba asked him, "Did you get the telegram?" It seemed he had got one. "What does it say?" "Prasad has high fever." "Is it?" asked Baba. He had not opened it yet, so it was passed on to Baba, and when he tore it open, it was found that Prasad had fever and the temperature was as high as 104 degrees. But Baba said, "Don't worry at all. I had been there just now. The boy is out of danger." Prasad, we were told, was at the house of the man who had come in 250 miles away. Generally, we do not get even this slight intimation of Baba's mysterious mission of grace. He saves, guards, directs, and dictates, even while talking or singing or moving about. I remember one outstanding experience of the unique type. Baba was at Prashanti Nilayam in his room. There were about a dozen of us there, busily engaged in scissoring the pairs of dhotis into singles and folding the singles preliminary to their being distributed to the poor during Navaratri. Suddenly, Baba asked, "Parthasarathi, you think I am here now with you, with this pair of scissors cutting this cloth, is it? Do you know I had been to Madras just now to see your Kusha? The little fellow developed diphtheria, and your brother had taken him to the hospital. Don't worry, my dear man. I have given him darshan, and he will be all right soon." We were all astonished at the announcement, and Parthasari fell at Baba's feet, for he was overwhelmed by this evidence of Baba's power and grace. With his characteristic sense of humor, Baba speaks of his Mahimas as my visiting card. That is to say, he is announcing to us by these means that he is Lord himself, the same Lord who came instantaneously to the rescue of many a bhakta, the same Lord who presented himself before those who called out for him. In his grace, he condescends to present his visiting card, symbolic credentials of his divinity, to even fleeting visitors who peep in out of mere curiosity. It lies with us to snatch the chance and, seeking from him the key to self-realization, make the chance worthwhile. Chapter 14, The Sarati. It is significant that Baba named the monthly magazine that was inaugurated at Prashanti Nilayam in 1958 as Sanatana Sarati. For like Sri Krishna, he too has come down in order to rid us of grief and delusion, of pride and ignorance, and re-establish Dharma in the world. The word Sarati is an assurance from Baba that he will guide us aright, if only we take the initial step of inviting him to take up the reins of our lives. Lord Krishna agreed in his mercy to be the charioteer, the Sarati of Arjuna, for the duration of the Kurukshetra battle. Narayana became the Sarati of Nara. God guided the actions of man. Arjuna was caught in the coils of moha. Just when duty called him to action, my limbs droop down, my tongue dries up, the bow slips from my hold. I am unable to stand. My brain is in a swirl, he wept. Sri Krishna rebuked him for being overcome by an unworthy weakness and unbecoming unmanliness. Arjuna's discrimination was overpowered by grief and delusion, by pride and ignorance, by a sense of I and mine. Then Krishna, who is the Antaryaman, removed the veil of moha and taught him the secret of successful living, the yoga of Sharanagati, of Anashakti. It is significant that Baba named the monthly magazine that was inaugurated at Prashanti Nilayam in 1958 as Sanatana Sarati, for like Sri Krishna, he too has come down in order to rid us of grief and delusion, of pride and ignorance, and re-establish Dharma in the world. The word Sarati is an assurance from Baba that he will guide us aright, if only we take the initial step of inviting him to take up the reins of our lives. The word Sanatana is a reminder that this has been the role of Baba since the dawn of creation itself. Baba has written 5 series of articles under the titles Prema Vahini, Dhyana Vahini, Prashanti Vahini, Jnana Vahini, and Sandeha Nirvarini. His is simple, direct, spoken Telugu, and so when one reads the articles, one can picture Baba himself talking in his intimate and inspiring way to the reader. With many questions between the statements, he prods the reader into thinking for himself on the problems he tackles, with occasional endearments like Naina, Babu, Abai, and Bangaru. He draws himself closer to us in order to instruct us in the art of Godward pilgrimage. Baba has written, how dejected will the riot be if the seeds he has sown do not sprout and grow and yield a harvest? So too, if the seeds, the words of truth that I sow do not sprout in your hearts and grow into fine saplings and trees yielding fruit, I am also not happy. That harvest of Ananda is my sustenance, my ahara food. This is the only seva you need to do. You need to do me. You need do to me. There is nothing higher than this. Without casting away these good words and truth written for your sake, if you put them into practice and experience joy therefrom, that joy is the food on which I sustain myself. If you thus act according to my words and put them into daily practice, I will gladly tell you more and more, for that is the reason why I have come. Baba has often said that he demonstrates his divinity through mahimas and leelas only to instill the faith necessary for men to listen to him and follow his suggestions for their own spiritual realization. He declares that it is everyone's right to know this message from him, and so anyone can approach him without fear or hesitation. His anxiety to remove all doubts lurking in the minds of people who seek guidance from him, his readiness to grant them as many interviews as they desire to discuss specific personal problems of sadhana, are evidence of his grace and mercy. A perusal of the pages of the Sanatana Saradi will reveal the power, the wisdom, and the grace of Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba to every reader. He warns us against neglecting the pennies in search for the pounds. In the search for the pounds. Be vigilant about the small things, the 100 little things that you indulge in every moment, harden into habits and warp character and personality. They shape the intelligence, the outlook, and the ideals and aspirations of the individual. Challenge your evil propensities even before they enslave you. If you make a sincere effort, you will certainly succeed. If your faults are pointed out to you by anyone, do not argue and attempt to prove that he is mistaken, and do not develop a grudge against him for that. Reason out within yourself, examine your own conduct coolly, and thankfully proceed to correct yourself. When someone causes you mental pain, do not give room for anger. Anger is enemy number one, Viveka and Vichakshana. Do Namasmarana for a while, sitting in a lonely place, or sing some bhajan songs in a raised voice, or if you cannot do both, spread to your bed and go to sleep. Your own experience is the best guarantee of truth for you. Do not be led by what others speak of their experiences. Nothing can be genuine as your own. Develop courage, confidence, hope, and enthusiasm. These will lead you in a good stead in the secular as well as spiritual fields. Man is everywhere immersed in worry and trouble. Is it right to increase the agony? Already the sea is rough. How can you have the mind to blow a typhoon over it? Learn rather to spread a smile from face to face. Why make the world sadder by your lamentation and the tales of your own woe? Adopt the course of japam and dhyanam to assuage your own grief. Overcome your own sorrow and be an example to the rest. These are some of the words of counsel that he has imparted to us in his kindness. The elimination of harmful tendencies, impulses, and habits, and the building up of character are, however, only preliminary to the practice of sadhana. So Baba has devoted a considerable part of his contributions to dhyanam, japam, namasmaranam, and prayer. For about 13 months, his articles dwelt on dhyanam and its modus operandi, what he calls the planned routine. Perform dhyanam until your mind comes firmly under your control. When the mind starts running about, be careful. Do not follow it into vagaries, seeking to discover it and punish it. Be still, do not pursue it. Then it will return by itself when it is tired and exhausted because it is neglected by you. The mind is like a little child. When the mother walks behind it and calls out its name and is showing an interest in its movement, the child gets the confidence to wander about a little further on. But if the mother stands still and retraces her steps away from it, the child is seized with fright at the sign of neglect and it runs back to her arms. So do not care for the vagaries of the mind. Carry on smarana and dhyana of the nama and rupa you like best in the manner you feel most conducive. You will realize your heart's desire. Words of solace and encouragement like these abound in the articles written by this Dakshina Murti of our age, for, as he says, in former ages, one particular group of persons or one individual who had the monopoly of the means of exploitation and enslavement and the power needed for them was responsible for the decline of Dharma, and hence Dharma could be reinstalled by the previous avatars by the destruction of that group or individual. But now the Rakshasa's nature is a universal feature, and hence this avatar has to bring about a revolution in the human character and attitude and behavior, and people have to be taught certain disciplines. People have to be put on the road to unity, harmony, and peace. The realization that everything in the universe is the manifestation of the Lord, who is the very basis, the entire content, and warp and the woof, the yarn and the cloth of all. This is the right of every person, whatever be the race or creed or class or caste. You of this generation are indeed lucky that you have the fortune of contact with the avatar of the Lord and the chance to receive the guidance he has come to give.
Thank you, Sister Kirtiha, for the beautiful rendition. We will conclude this session with Sai Gayatri and Samastaloka. ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात् ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात् ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Thank you all for joining today. We look forward to coming together